There is no unmoving mover behind the movement. It is only movement. It is not correct to say that life is moving, but life is movement itself. Life and movement are not two different things. In other words, there is no thinker behind a thought. Thought itself is the thinker. If you remove the thought, there is no thinker to be found. Walpola, Rahula, Thero. Good evening, folks. Just to keep you updated on what's going on with me, was fixing up my daughter's bike. That was for her birthday. Had replaced both tires, both tubes, cleaned up everything. The chain, I hadn't put grease on it yet. I needed to do other things. My dog had something going on with his tail, and he wasn't eating at all yesterday, and he threw up early this morning, so I took him to the vet. He needed, excuse me, to go to the dentist anyways. That was very expensive. He's okay now. He's gonna be on antibiotics. Oh, whoa, it's interesting. All right, so dog is at the vet. And while I'm working on my daughter's bike, another dog shows up, and like, what? It's like it's a schnauzer. It had a vaccination, a rabies vaccination tag on it, and then there's a number on it, and it looked just like my dog's. And when I started dialing in the number, I noticed it was the same vet that my dog was in. So it just kind of looked at me, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Where are you from?" You know. So I got some water for it and hung around. I asked if it wanted a treat, and so it's just like, yeah. So it took the treat, except it didn't eat it. It just kind of just hung out underneath my car while I was working on my daughter's bike and was just chilling. And so I grabbed pictures. I could probably show pictures, but we could go ahead and do all that stuff later. Called the vet, gave him the numbers that was on the tag. The person at the vet just gave me a phone number and also an address, but I just called or left a text message, put the pictures that I took of the dog on the text message, and I got a reply. And the husband came and picked the dog up, and he was like driving around for 20 minutes trying to find him. And it was pretty far away. The dog went a long way. Hi Mia, how's it going? Hi Kathy. Might as well go and switch it over into the chat. Someone's birthday today? Anyways, yeah, I was exhausted. It was kind of nice because it was cool outside because of a huge thunderstorm that passed by. And I was like, all right, this is nice. I could work outdoors on my daughter's bike, and you know, I won't be super hot. And then, unfortunately, it got super hot. I think what happened is probably the dog was outside, and maybe it got spooked by the thunderstorm because it passed by really quick, and then that's how it just kind of got lost. Found its way to me, which is just weird, huh? All right, so this topic that I'm going over today, I had one of those visions / dreams where I'm not really dreaming. I'm trying to fall asleep, take a nap, but I can't, and it's very, very like I'm just awake, but not awake. I don't know how to describe it. I just call it a vision because I never really had visions like that before. I've had one maybe when I'm really sick. When you're really, really sick, I remember, at least when I'm really, really sick, when I was a kid, I used to have these visions. But this, you know, I wasn't really sick. And so I don't know what to call these things. You know, a lot of this stuff didn't happen before I took ayahuasca, at least my third time. But now I do have these sporadically. And, well, unfortunately, the last one was on May 22nd of 2019. And it's just, it's like it's basically like a visual display. I don't know what's going on. Um, I have to interpret it in whatever way that I know how to interpret it, and then I'm trying to figure it out. And hopefully, doing this type of thing is something that'll, other people will help me if I can kind of explain it in a way, but also just kind of looking into it itself is helpful because I can see all the different types of variations out there on it. Some things I never knew about or learned about, and so I learned something new. The other thing is that when I'm also looking for quote of the day quotes, I find someone that's pretty interesting to look into a little bit more. So it gives me something more to go on. So I'm just continuing this process where I just have to keep searching. I don't know what the answer is. I don't even know if it's useful, if it's applicable or whatever. But maybe it's just nice to know what the possibilities may be, I guess, if there's anything such as that. So the vision was of there are many wheels out there, and thus there's a ninth one, and that one got destroyed. And I'm like, okay, some vision. And then I'm thinking maybe I'm not interpreting that right. Maybe it's a circle or sphere. But anyways, I just interpreted it at that point in time as a wheel. But I think the number is important. It wasn't like the first, second, third, or fifth, eighth, ninth. There wasn't a 10th, and there's just a ninth one and got destroyed. Now, what the heck does that even mean? So I Skype messaged Devin Maggi of Flat Earth Paradise and told him about it, and he said 9 is completion. So that didn't really help me, but it kind of understood. I mean, you've got 8, which is just kind of a repeated cycle type of thing, infinity. 9, on the other hand, is completion, or maybe it's destruction of that infinite cycle. Because if you think about it, you've got the 8, right? That keeps going. And 9 is, you got that little part that's missing. It's gone. But so a lot of this may be just getting your help on it. And I think what I'm going to do is just go start looking into the stuff that I was looking into. Well, ninth wheel didn't really help. I looked at the ninth wheel, and there's like a Urban Dictionary. So what this is you've got 8 people. They're all couples. So basically 4 couples, 8 people, and the 9th person is the 9th wheel. That doesn't really give me much to go on. So I kind of skipped it. Okay, let's, instead of wheel, what about a sphere? And there are Gnostic teachings. I'm like, okay, great, Gnostic teachings. And then, of course, if you do go on there right now, there's an expired thing. But I think I'm going to look into that because I don't really see much of that except when I go to the 9 spheres of heaven. And we're going to go into Dante's Inferno and Paradiso because they are also pertinent, but I'm going to move that over to the circle. So, I mean, there's a lot of... I don't know. I think maybe the answer is just in the searching. So this is written by Samuel on War, which I've come across before, which I should probably look more into because I remember the name. I came across it, and maybe I should look into it a little bit more. So 2 people that I'll probably look a little bit more into. One is Walpola, Rahula, Thero, and again, I guess I'll look at Samuel on War. Kind of like the 3rd wheel. All right. So here we go. And here's the thing. It's like I never much cared for people with visions all too much, because it's like, okay, like a person had a vision, so what? Does it apply to me? Is that person gonna uh is it does it relate to anything in the world that can be verified? I was very uh, adamant about just we don't know. But now that I know, it doesn't matter what we know, but it matters what we don't know. As far as what we know, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's all I can say. It's crazy, and that's admitted. This is just like, all right. So when you had a vision, okay, great. What does it mean? I got no idea. So okay, thanks, Saban. It's what I would say to anybody else, right? Let's just be real about that. Okay, in the great ancient civilizations which have preceded us in the course of history, the descent into the ninth sphere was the greatest ordeal for the supreme dignity of the Hierophant. Hermes, Buddha, Jesus, Dante, Zoroaster, and many other great masters had to pass through that difficult ordeal. Remember, most beloved disciples, that the ninth sphere is sex. Many are they who enter the ninth sphere. However, it is very rare to find anyone who can victoriously pass that difficult ordeal. Most occult students live fluttering from school to school, from lodge to lodge, always curious, always in search of novelties, on the lookout for any new lecturer who arrives in the city. Maybe that's why some of you guys are watching me. I don't know. When any of those students resolve to work with the Arcanum AZF, when any of those students resolve to descend to the ninth sphere, in order to work with the fire and the water, he does it as always searching, always curious, always foolish. Yeah, that does seem to be the case, isn't it? The occultist student turns everything into little schools and theories. If he enters the ninth sphere, he does so as if he enters into another little school. Always an imbecile, always curious, always foolish. Yeah, I was thinking, I'm just kind of foolish to even... Like, I'm pretty sure that people are just calling me foolish right now, which, of course, I don't care. That's the thing about not really caring about your ego. It is difficult to find a serious and determined aspirant of the truth on the path of the perfect matrimony. Sometimes students appear who are apparently very mature and serious. However, in the long run, they show what they are really made of. It is a sad truth, but a fact of life. The ordeals, like right now, I don't even know what this ninth sphere means. Maybe it's something about Kundalini. That was my guess. But I guess we'll figure it out. I know. So Kathy B, number 9 is associated with the major arcana tarot card called the Hermit, which I want to get into more. And I know someone who's into tarot and stuff. I hope to have her on to do an interview so I can ask her questions. The ordeals of the ninth sphere are very fine and subtle. The doctor advises the devotee to fornicate, because otherwise the doctor says he will become ill. Tattling women stir up fear in the wives. The so-called brothers of different organizations frighten the student. The magicians of darkness, disguised as saints, advise the devotee to spill the semen in a saintly manner. I wonder what that is. In a saintly manner. The so-called sages teach the aspirant negative sexual magic with the spilling of the semen. I don't know what that is either. The manner of teaching, the sublime and mystic tinge that the tenebrous ones disguised as saints give to their doctrine, succeeds in misleading the devotee and keeps him away from the path of the razor's edge. Razor's edge. Then the student falls into black magic. When the student goes astray, he believes he is wiser than the masters of Gnosis. Indeed, the failures of the ninth sphere, those who do not succeed in passing the very long and hard ordeals of this arcanum, in fact, become terribly perverse demons. This gets really into Dante's Inferno with the ninth circle. And I'll get a little bit more into that later. Worst of all is that no demon believes himself to be bad or perverse. Every demon believes himself to be saintly and wise. In the beginning, the practices of sexual magic affect the organism. Sometimes the sexual and parathyroid glands become inflamed, the head aches, one feels a certain dizziness, etc. This frightens the curious butterflies of the little schools, who then flee terrified, looking as always for refuge in some new little school. This is how these poor fools spend their lives, always moving from flower to flower. The day comes when these poor fools die, having achieved nothing. They have miserably wasted their time. Thus, when death arrives, these fools continue as a legion of demons. What is interesting, when I was looking into Ninth Circle, and we'll get into that a little bit more detail, but something that I didn't know as far as a conspiracy theorist is what is the Ninth Circle conspiracy theory. Ninth Circle conspiracy. And this I found while I was trying to find what the ninth circle would mean, and let's look at Illuminati.fandom.com. Okay, so there's a conspiracy theory, or I would call it conspiracy, where there's a group called the Ninth Circle that participates in satanic worship by performing illegal acts toward children, including rape, torture, and murder. It is a creation of the Jesuits within the Catholic Church and is membered by some of the most prominent political and financial figures in the world. Jeffrey Epstein type of thing. The group was found guilty by the International Common Law Court of Justice of countless murders and mass graves in Canada, the Netherlands, Spain, and Belgium, among other places. The Pope is considered the head of the group, and it is ritualistic as exposed by their doctrine, the magisterial privilege, that the newest sitting Pope must drink the blood of a newborn child. This point has already been irrefutably proven with witnesses and testimony in a court, a painful blow to conspiracy deniers. I never really knew about that, and heck, if the ninth wheel being destroyed is this, I'd be good with that. All right, now let's just circle on. Back onto the GnosticTeachings.org about the ninth sphere. The ninth sphere is definitive for the aspirant to the realization of the self. It is impossible to intimately realize the self without having incarnated the soul. No one can incarnate the soul if one has not engendered the Christ astral, the Christ mind, and the Christ will. The present internal vehicles of the human being referred to by Theosophy are only simple mental forms that every human being must dissolve when they try to achieve intimate realization of the self. We need to be born, and being born is, has been, and will always be an absolutely sexual problem. It is necessary to be born, and for that one must descend to the ninth sphere. That is the greatest ordeal for the supreme dignity of the Hierophant. That is the most difficult ordeal. I wonder if that was like the last temptation of Christ type of thing. It is very rare to find someone who can pass that difficult ordeal. As a rule, everybody fails in the ninth sphere. Reminds me of Matrix, although not quite, because remember, they go, yeah, everybody fails this test when they're jumping from one building to the other. Sorry, it's kind of popping up some stuff with that comes across my head. It is necessary that husband and wife love each other deeply. People confuse desire with love. The whole world sings of desire, and this is confused with that which is called love. Only those who have incarnated their soul know what love is. The I does not know what love is. The I is desire. Everyone who incarnates his soul becomes, as an outcome of the fact, a Buddha. Every Buddha must work in the ninth sphere to incarnate the inner Christ. The Buddha is born within the ninth sphere. The Christ is born within the ninth sphere. We must be born as Buddhas and then as Christs. Blessed be love. Blessed are the beings who truly love one another. Blessed are those who become victorious in the ninth sphere. Interesting. Fearmongers. Many pseudo-esoterists have committed unspeakable genocides. When fearmongers act against the Kundalini, it is about the Kundalini. Indeed, it is a true genocide. It is an indescribable crime against humanity to tell people in published books that the awakening of the Kundalini is dangerous. Those who spread fear against the Kundalini are worse than war criminals. The latter committed crimes against people. However, those pseudo-esoterists who spread fear commit crimes against the soul And people who spread fear, we do notice that a lot, don't we? Commit crimes against the soul. Whosoever does not awaken the Kundalini cannot incarnate his soul. Whosoever does not awaken his Kundalini remains without soul. He loses his soul. It is false to state that the Kundalini can awaken without moral progress, and due to this, one must wait until such progress is made. The development of the Kundalini is controlled by the merits of the heart. We give concrete instructions about the Kundalini, and every serpentine culture knows the path in depth. It is false to state that the Kundalini may flow through different channels when white sexual magic is practiced. It is only when black sexual magic is practiced that the Kundalini descends to the atomic infernos of the human being and becomes the tail of Satan. Therefore, that absurd affirmation of the fearmongers that the Kundalini can leave the medullary canal, tear tissue, produce terrible pains, and cause death is false. These affirmations of the assassins of souls are false because each of the 7 serpents has its specialized masters who watch over the student. The student is not abandoned in the work. When the student awakens the first serpent, he is attended by a specialist, and then the second serpent is awakened. He is helped by another, and so on. These specialists take the serpent through the medullary canal. No student is abandoned. The specialists have to answer for the student. The specialists live in the astral world. Hi Magazog failure, hi to plain truth. The Kundalini awakens negatively only when the semen is spilled. Whosoever practices sexual magic without spilling the semen has nothing to fear. I feel like I've got a lot to learn. Nobody can actualize the superior aspects of the Kundalin without perfect sanctity. It is then false to say that there are disastrous possibilities in the premature actualization of the Kundalini. This affirmation is false because the premature actualization of fire cannot occur. The Kundalini can only be actualized based on sanctification. The Kundalini does not rise even one vertebrae if the conditions of sanctity required for that vertebrae have not been conquered. Each vertebra has its moral conditions of sanctity. It is false and stupid to say that the Kundalini can awaken ambition or pride or intensify all of the coarse qualities and animal passions of the animal ego. Whosoever uses these fear-mongering tactics to keep students from the real path is truly ignorant, because the Kundalini awakened with white sexual magic cannot progress even 1 degree when true sanctity does not exist. The Kundalini is not a blind force. The Kundalini is not a mechanical force. The Kundalini is controlled by the fires of the heart and can only be developed based on sexual magic and sanctity. We have to recognize that in Mexico, the serpentine culture was and continues to be formidable. Every Aztec sculpture is a marvelous book of occult science. We have been enraptured contemplating Quetzalcoatl with the serpent entwined about his body and a lingam yoni in his hands. I don't know what that is. We have been amazed contemplating the giant serpent devouring the magician. We have been filled with singular veneration to see the tiger with a phallus hanging about its neck. Indeed, the word is in the phallus. In the Aztec culture, there are no fearmongers. Each book of stone, each indigenous layman invites us to awaken the Kundalini. It is urgent to first awaken the Kundalini and then be devoured by the Kundalini. We need to be swallowed by the snake. We need the Kundalini to swallow us. We need to be devoured by the serpent. When one is devoured by the serpent, one also becomes a serpent. Only the human serpent can incarnate the Christ. Christ can do nothing without the snake. The authentic Aztec and Mayan cultures, the Egyptian and Chaldean, etc., are serpentine cultures that cannot be understood without sexual magic and the Kundalini. Every archaic culture is serpentine. Every authentic and true civilization is serpentine. A civilization without the wisdom of the serpent is not a real civilization. There's a lot to go on. But anyways, this goes with a lot of information, and I think, and this is just one chapter of a book by Samuel on war. And maybe we'll go over that some other day. So, possibility. The ninth sphere that is destroyed If in this case about the Kundalini is if this is destroyed, then it would be that there would be no path to enlightenment anymore. So that is a possibility, a path to the supreme, highest of the high, God, creator, whatever you want to call it. That would be an ill omen. I would rather have this be destroyed, but we don't know. All right, so let's continue on to the ninth circle. When we go to the ninth circle, we kind of get into Dante's Inferno, but the thing is, it could also be just the Dante's Paradiso, or maybe even the ninth part of Purgatory. So we got in this one already 3 different options that it could be. Excuse me. So, what is this one? I have a double. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to history lists. So, there's 9 circles of hell in Dante's Inferno, and where the first circle is limbo, second was lust, third is gluttony, fourth is greed, fifth is anger, sixth is heresy, seventh is violence, eighth is fraud, and ninth that we're going to look into, the ninth circle, is treachery. The last ninth circle of hell is divided into 4 rounds according to the seriousness of the sin, though all residents are frozen in an icy lake. And which is interesting is a long time ago, hell was always not a fiery hell as people depict it today. And maybe that's just a inverse, everything is inverted kind of and perverted. Maybe that's the whole thing. So back then, hell, until hell freezes over, well, hell was frozen over. And the thing is, if you go way back, the highest place in heaven was just a blaze. So it's just one of those weird things. All right, so though all residents are frozen in an icy lake, those who committed more severe sin are deeper within the ice. Each of the 4 rounds is named after an individual who personifies the sin. Thus, round 1 is named Cain after Cain, who killed his brother Abel. Round 2 is named Atenora after Athenor of Troy, who was Priam's counselor during the Trojan War. Round 3 is named Ptolemaea after Ptolemy, son of Abubus, while round 4 is named Judeca after Judas Iscariot, the apostle who betrayed Jesus with a kiss. And if you read the Dante's Inferno, it gets good night, Mia. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do the politics night on Friday nights, and I know you're very good about that stuff, and hopefully we could figure out how to figure things out in that arena, if that is something we can change, since that has not been effective at all, at least not the state and federal level. All right, so anyways, have a good night. And the ninth circle, what would it mean if the ninth circle of hell was destroyed? Does that mean they are let loose? The other part is, as I was mentioning earlier, with the ninth sphere within the Gnostic Kundalini experience, how if you fail and you die, you become possessed by a demon. Does that mean that won't happen anymore? I mean, because that would be a good thing. I mean, in Dante's Inferno, he also states that there are those within the ninth circle of hell, the demons there, that they await those who are alive, who have such treachery, and therefore they can be what is it called? They can be possessed by a demon. I mean, it's kind of weird how you got the whole Gnostic stuff within Dante's circle, Dante's Inferno, but Dante, I think, just kind of took a lot of things into one. But maybe there's a reason for that. So I don't know. That could be a good thing if the ninth circle within Dante's Inferno happens. As far as the demon possession thing, if that does exist, but then again, if hell is destroyed, maybe that's a good thing, because then we're all on the path to the all thing. Or maybe it's a bad thing, because then then what becomes the new hell? Everything else, they're free to roam, but maybe they don't want to ascend or transcend. There's a difference. All right, then we get the 9 spheres of heaven, which is Dante's Paradiso. Which the first sphere is the moon, and this is where it gets to the crystalline sphere that I kind of looked into, and I didn't know whether to put the Purgatorio. Is that a thing? Dante's Purgatorio levels. Yeah, let's just go 9 levels of Purgatorio first, because above that is going to be excuse me, Paradiso. So 3 possibilities. Is it Dante's Inferno, the 9th level, the 9th sphere? But okay, anyways, 9 levels of Purgatory is first stage is stubbornness, second stage is repentant, third stage is pride, fourth stage is envy, fifth stage is wrath, sixth stage is sloth, seventh stage is avarice, eighth stage is gluttony, and ninth stage is lust. And that seems to be somewhat similar to the 9th sphere of the Kundalini, although just in the manner of sex and lusts, etc., not desire and not necessarily love. All right, this one says, as they continue to climb Mount Purgatory, Dante contemplates how the penitents and the terrorists of the gluttonous can be so thin but yet be souls. Statius takes this opportunity, and Virgil gives him the go-ahead to explain how the body and soul are related. In the terrace of the lustful, the penitent souls must run through a great wall of flames. As they run through, they call out examples of chastity, which is the opposite of lust. Everyone must run through the wall before they leave, including Dante. Dante is hesitant because he is afraid. Virgil tells him that Beatrice, the love of his life, is waiting for him in the earthly paradise. This is enough to convince Dante, who goes through the flames. They all fall asleep shortly after that, and in the morning they all proceed to the earthly paradise, and the final P on Dante's forehead is removed. Does that mean Kathy B, they're supposed to Planet 9? We'll get to that. Anyways, if that means that this 9th sphere is destroyed, that the lust part, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Does it just mean you can't ascend to the paradise, Dante's level of all that? Or let's see, how can it be? So that could be bad if it's destroyed. How could it be good? Maybe that there is no such thing as lust. We see through all that. I don't know. I wish I had more help, fellas. Okay. First sphere. Okay, so we're gonna go into the 9 spheres of heaven. All right. So there's the third option of what the 9th sphere would be in Dante's Paradiso. The first sphere is the moon. The second sphere is Mercury. Third sphere is Venus. Fourth sphere is the Sun. Fifth sphere is Mars. Sixth sphere is Jupiter. Seventh sphere is Saturn. Eighth sphere is the fixed stars. And the 9th sphere is the primum mobile. The last of the 9 spheres of heaven, or the primum mobile, is also the last stop before the Empyrean, and the last of the physical heavens, as the Empyrean is beyond space and time. After a brief discussion with Beatrice on the place they've come to, Dante sees an intensely bright light surrounded by 9 circles, which, as he soon learns, are the 9 orders of angels surrounding God in the center. As they are slowly ascending to the Empyrean, Beatrice tells Dante the story of creation and the history of angels. So, if this 9th sphere is destroyed, that seems like a very bad thing. How can it be a good thing? I don't know how that could be a good thing. Maybe then it's everything's based on the 8th sphere, which is the heaven and fixed stars. Kathy B, were there any colors associated with your vision? It was just brown and red. Maybe some blue. Couldn't quite tell. That's the thing with visions. I'm not a visual person, so it's like hard to just imprint the visual coloration of it. But what comes to mind are those colors. It felt like it was in dark background. Alright, so crystalline sphere, celestial spheres, I got into here, and just that's how I got to the whole Empyrean and unmoved mover thing. And this is just a lot of stuff that was way back in Greek philosophy, and still continues to this day, especially when we're talking about potential Eastern philosophies. But I haven't really found anything as far as the 9th circle or 9th sphere or 9th whatever, aside from the Kundalini. I do know that there's the Eightfold Path within Buddhism, but there's no 9th circle unless you look at the Eightfold Path within the sphere, the outside of it. And does that mean that the Eightfold Path is destroyed? That could be another possibility. I have no idea. So basically, this whole topic seems absolutely useless. But of course, I always seem to take the optimistic approach to it. It's not entirely useless. There's just more to look at, and don't know. Really dark blue? No, it felt like a very bright blue, but it was not very prominent, Kathy. It was like certain outlines were blue. But yeah, a lot of it was just kind of brown and kind of red. It's like that mix. I don't know. I wish I could have like a photo of my own visions, but unfortunately they don't have that technology, do they? Maybe there's a reason they don't have that technology. It seems like they should by now. All right, so let's start with the Empyrean. In ancient cosmologies, the Empyrean heaven, or simply Empyrean, was the place in the highest heaven, which was supposed to be occupied by the element of fire, or ether in Aristotle's natural philosophy. The word derives from medieval Latin imperius, but all of this. Anyways, let's keep going. The Empyrean was thus used as a name for the firmament, and in Christian literature for the dwelling place of God, the blessed celestial beings so divine they are made of pure light and a source of light in creation. Notably, at the very end of Dante's Paradiso, Dante visits God in the Empyrean. The word is used both as a noun and as an adjective, but imperial is an alternative adjective form. The scientific words imperiuma and imperiumatic imply to the characteristic smell of the burning or charring of vegetable or animal matter have the same Greek origin. I never knew about that. Unmoved mover. The unmoved mover or prime mover is a concept advanced by Aristotle as a primary cause or mover of all motion in the universe. As is implicit in the name, the unmoved mover moves other things but is not moved itself by any prior action. The celestial spheres, not to be confused with celestial sphere. The celestial spheres or celestial orbs were the fundamental entities of the cosmological models developed by Plato, Eudoxus, Aristotle, Ptolemy, Copernicus, and others. In these celestial models, the apparent motions of the fixed stars and planets are accounted for by treating them as embedded in rotating spheres made of an ethereal, transparent fifth element, quintessence, like jewels set in orbs. Since it was believed that the fixed stars did not change their positions relative to one another, it was argued that they must be on the surface of a single starry sphere. What's funny is, everything up there is a sphere except the Earth is a globe, right? Apparently they thought everything up there, that's what they thought, but I doubt it. I know Plato thought that we were like a dome, not necessarily a globe. I mean, heck, if we're a globe, shouldn't everything up there be a globe? Anyways, Kathy B. What's funny? He goes, "Did you sketch any of it?" No, I am horrible about that. I should. My wife got me a long time ago a book because I used to have a lot of cool dreams that would probably make for cool stories. So she got me a book that had like its own little mini light, and so if I wake up from a dream, I could write in it. And I think that's a good idea. I need to find that book or just have a piece of paper and pencil in my head. But what I do is I'm not very good with visions and drawing. Like if I had a picture of something in my head and I try to draw it, I couldn't do a very good adaptation of it. I'm just one of those people, it seems, where it's the realization of whatever it is, the act, basically I capture the act, right? I don't look at the details. I don't. For example, one of my dreams I had way back as a child when I was sick that I vividly remember was I would be running back and forth. It was just emptiness, just plain black, plain darkness. Just think of it as if you watch Stranger Things, just kind of in that where she goes and it's just pure darkness. Yet some things are just kind of visible. So there's two ends to it. It's kind of like a basketball court, and there's just faucets dripping water. So I go to one end, and I have like a thimble, and I got it, and I'm carrying it over to the other end, and just going back and forth, filling up the thimble or whatever. And the thing is, the two ends, the water, the spouts just start flooding. It's like it's just going too fast. I'm like, I can't capture all of the water, especially in the thimble. It's just overflowing, etc. And that was just one of my dreams that I vividly remember. I remember the action. I don't remember any of the details. It's that. Yeah, start doing that. Pastels work well. Claude Alley has to be fresh. Yeah, that's the thing. I think I will give it a try. I'm gonna have to have. I should probably have like a book with me at all times in case something happens where, because here's the thing. I think the problem that I have is when I find something and I go searching, something stands out and I go, okay, I'll go back to that later. or I'll find it later, and maybe that could be like a topic session. But then I forget. I remember it, and I know it's there somewhere, but I don't have the timestamp. So if there's like a 3-hour show, I have to rewatch the entire 3-hour show again just to find that spot, and that kind of sucks. So I am gonna have to probably start carrying around a journal just so I could revisit the journal before I do these on topic type of things, and that way I have just more details and some more things that I look into, because a lot of this seems just not pertinent. But anyways, let's keep going. Celestial spheres. Yeah, pretty much we kind of went over that. So let's look at, I mean, as far as ninth sphere goes, being destroyed, ninth circle, ninth wheel, whatever it is. Excuse me. It could be interpreted as good or bad. Seems like anything that's destroyed has a bad and good result. So, I mean, again, maybe none of this matters. Maybe the whole point of this is to act on figuring out what it is, and within that action, I come across something else that seems pertinent to look into and see if I can make tangible, and maybe it can be useful to someone else. It's just weird things that occur, right? Like when I started making his videos, and I'll just switch over. And you guys can feel free to come on in and talk about this, or maybe this is a good time to just do an open topic for a while. It's just if you guys want to talk about anything. Tomorrow is kind of the same concept, but we focus on politics. And again, politics is not my thing, but I know people like to discuss politics. So I don't have answers, unfortunately. If I did have answers, I would give those answers and not even worry about focusing 50 minutes on trying to figure it out. But then again, if I had the answers, I felt I would probably be focusing on different things, because I would consider that answer as to be important enough to focus on. See what I mean? So it's a weird thing to have to go through this and determine what it might mean. And then again, we don't know what it means as much. I mean, as much as we look into this, it's just too vague. It's just too, there's just not enough information. There's just not enough detail. We're not going to figure this out. That's the reality of the situation. But there's a reason for it. I don't know what that reason is. I don't know if we're going to find out what that reason is. But again, if I never told anyone, if I never shared that information, if I just ignored it, then I wouldn't have done this done this video on it. So obviously there's a reason for it, and I made a reason for it because I'm doing this. It's kind of like a catch-22, isn't it? All right, come on in, Eye Level Awakening. Or are you just mean chat? Hey, Aaron. The man that deciphered the vision of the king. I don't know that story. You should share that story, Claude Alley. Maybe I know it, but I don't really know. So it's just one of these things. Why 9? Why even, like, it wouldn't even matter if it's uh and like, why couldn't the vision give me a date? You know, that would be kind of nice if the vision said, "Hey, it's gonna happen this day." Hey, how's it going, Travis?
Hello, 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 what ho?
Anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Waste of time. We're never gonna figure it out, or maybe you've got an idea,
I,
possibility.
I'm just getting introduced to, the astrotheology kind of stuff. So it's fascinating to me. I first got introduced when I was listening to Crow 777
Mm-hmm.
and just heard them talking about alchemy and just thinking through what nature teaches us about transformation and growth and all of that stuff. It just was really, I found some interesting connections to make with my Christian tradition because you have the same language of ascension and transformation and transfiguration and the union of the divine and the human. And I just was really struck by the taboo that was indoctrinated in my mind about New Age movement and mystical, esoteric ideas, and it's just another rabbit hole to go down. But it's one that I'm really really interested in. I've actually just had Wakey Wakey. You know that channel,
Yep, I know
Mark?
that channel.
Yeah, I just had him do a astrological reading on my stuff, so I still haven't gone through it. It's like 18 pages, but he and I are going to try to get up on in September, do a show for Redhead Radio. But I want to start going down that road because there's a lot of good channels out there. Mr. Astrotheology and Charlie Freak with the Freak Sense. Um, and then the guys at Iron Realm Media have had a couple of guys that are on that talk about alchemy. So yeah, it's just really really interesting.
May I ask you a question as to why even dive into this? I mean, didn't you grow up with a lot of uh, people in your Christian church just giving you the answers?
Well, not regarding what alchemy does in terms of learning from nature and transforming things and being organically uh, mystically united to the earth, and if you're doing gardening or permaculture kind of stuff, and just how your interaction and involvement in that uh, environment, that wasn't a part of Christian um, transformation. So I mean, there's a bit of syncretism with Christian transformation. You can't do it without God, but He doesn't do it all for you. So it's a dance that you have a relationship with God where you need His power to do the transformation. Um, but to be honest with you, I never felt like that worked for me. I always felt like I was on my own. I always felt like I had to do it myself anyway, which is not a big deal. I mean, I don't mind doing things myself, but the one thing that I always, just kept going back to whenever I came out of spiritual exercises or spiritual depression and trying to come out of it on my own, I never sensed that God was with me. Like I could never go back and go, you know what? That I knew he was helping me. That was him. I knew it. It never happened. You know. So no, I wouldn't say that people in my Christian tradition gave me all the answers, because they weren't along the lines of either alchemy or astrotheology or tapping into nature and understanding what we're supposed to be as humanity by observing and participating in transforming the world.
I don't know if you're still within those members of the church. Did you get any feedback from them about your thoughts on that?
I would have. I'm not involved in church anymore, but I would have to say that it was a minor expression of you've just got to believe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And that would always piss me off, because I would scream at them in my head thinking, what the hell was I doing when I was on my face crying out to God? Like, that wasn't enough. I wasn't sincere enough. So, don't you tell me that you're not me. How do you know how sincere I was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was always a frustration on my part. No one seemed to be able to or want to relate to me. I don't know. Sometimes I got the feeling like I was the only honest one. Like everybody else was struggling, but they didn't ever want to admit it. And even though I admitted it, they were like, yeah, that's me too. They would think, yeah, who's that nutcase over there? You just got to believe a little bit more. And I always felt like I was, you know what I mean? I was on the outside.
Yeah. Hi, Aaron. How's it going? Hey, I know you're moving around, but chime in whenever you want. You're muted. You might want to unmute.
Come on, Aaron. What are you, new?
Sorry. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just listen to Travis and, listen to you, Ebon, and just working things out. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came in when you were reading through the Dante's levels and whatnot, so I found that interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool because he seems to have just gotten everything that he could think of and put it in a story / poetry form, and it just kind of mixes in a lot of the Greek philosophies, the Christianity bits, even the Gnosticism portions, and even other things that I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting. I mean, like just all the history that was told, and a lot of symbolism and things like that. It just seems like it's something that if we kind of went through and down, that it could probably reveal a lot more than we initially thought when we kind of listened to it or read about it before, And that just seems to be the case with everything. It's like. If you remember just being told about, say, scripture within the Bible when you listened to it the first time as a kid, and then now with everything that or that you feel like that the earth is flat, that all the authorities have been lying to you. If you look at a passage again, it's just a different interpretation than you originally had when you first heard it.
What if they're not authorities, though? You did use a word that we commonly use, like, oh, the authorities told us. But what if we, at the same time, in this path that we're on, and we're realizing all these things, and what if we realize that they're not actual authorities? So what they said, we can...
They call themselves authorities. Let me just put it that way. They're not necessarily authority to me.
Okay, good. because
I
they're
mean
not.
the one thing that I think about, and maybe it's just my own proclivity, but I I I don't I can't think of having the time to 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 spend on alchemy and personal transformation in this environment that I'm in right now. Like if all I had to do was farm my own food and worry about watering the horses and the pigs and all that kind of stuff, and had a lifestyle where I could spend time meditating and I wish I could go back 30 years and start over with a an alchemical mentor or I don't even know what a chakra mentor, because it's a whole nother way of existence, and it's not gonna it's not gonna happen overnight. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
serious.
Travis, the,
Yeah.
the life you're talking about is freedom, and it's called original, right?
Yeah.
Existence, basically, where
Yeah.
a man meets a woman, makes his own life. What you do, you drill a well, you build your own house, you do all these things for yourself, self stability, self sustainability, which is there's no need for a government at that point, right? But when we kind of acquiesce into more freedom of, oh, I can go to the store, well, then we have to deal with, cities and all this stuff that um, creates a slavery that we've um, worked our way into, kind of. You have to be a resident to be a part of a city. You have to be, you know, you have to have paperwork in order to engage in the corporate world. Or you can go back to your land and drill your own well instead of, you know, relying on city wells or city sewer or city garbage or city power, like all this stuff, you know. And it's a hard choice, actually. Which one is easier today?
Yeah, it's a balance, but I have a feeling that we're here because it's not easy. You know what I mean? If we wanted it easy, we would just keep going along with the script that's given to us. So
Well, God made heaven on earth, right? Or didn't make, but Travis or Ivan, you can correct me on the actual terminology, but there was supposed to be a heaven on earth. And if we have a fiction called the state providing all this stuff for us, it's kind of like heaven, right? We, we are supplied with heaven: fruits, trees, nuts, land, ground, water, air, all that stuff. We're supplied with that. But in order to get that, we have to do work, you know.
mhm.
And the city, the municipality, is trying to step in and create the role of, I would say, a pseudo god, saying, "Here's your heaven on earth. All you have to do is go get it, from a store, or pay for it, or do work. The same amount of work you do drilling a hole. Why don't you just buy it from us, right? We did the work. You paid us. Blah blah blah. That's my position on of true freedom. If you want to get out of the system, you have to be very out. If you want to get away from all taxes, everything else, the land is there. There's enough land in this world for all of us to have, a bunch of land. But you're gonna have nothing. No house, no water, no power, no sewer, no nothing. Can you do it yourself? You know? And our great grandparents did. They did that, you know.
Well, apparently, we've done that. If we go about the historical model that's been provided to us, heck, even cavemen could do it. Yeah, we can't. Does that seem to make sense? If the very primitive man could do all that, and after centuries of quote unquote evolution, then why can't we do that?
I guarantee if you and me were put in that position, we would do it. It's pure survival,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you
Yeah,
need water, you're gonna find it.
yeah,
You know, if you need
I'd
food,
want
you're
I'd
gonna
want
grow.
you guys I'd want you guys to test all of the berries though.
yeah. I mean, there's just a lot that's passed along. I mean, there's enough where I kind of learned a little bit of identification of things, but still, there's probably gonna be, depending on where you're at, you're just gonna have to learn based on the region you're in. Just kind of what's wild and what's edible.
That's the test of the government.
Yeah,
Is who's going to submit and who's going to be, the people, the uh, self-governing, the self-providers. Who's going to be those? And they don't generally mess too much with the self-providers. Um, but once you enter into public, you enter into a city. Oh, they're going to want paperwork. They're going to want, it's just it's their natural condition. That's all they exist on is paper. So it's hard for us to exist without that piece of paper also. Even if you have your own piece of land, you live on your own water, your own power, you know, uh, it's not against the law to do that here in the United States. Is what I'm saying. It's not against the law to provide for yourself. But as soon as you walk out onto that street, ah, you need a piece of paper
yeah,
because it's not your street. You didn't build that. You built this land, but you didn't build that street. You know? And they patrolled the streets.
uh, this is kind of a big segue. um, but yeah, I think when I look outside, everything's just been terraformed in a way. I read a book about just like Native American, just the way that they had growth and just what was in North America at the time, like in the United States, and just a lot of useless European trees were planted in the United States as settlements happened, and a lot of this stuff that was edible and nutritious was just replaced by all these ornamental type of aesthetic trees from Europe. And I would probably say that, I mean, if you go out to like the wild areas near the water, there's going to be lots of food for you. There's going to be, especially with the rivers before they dammed all the rivers up in the U.S. I mean, near the waters where there's clean fresh water, there's just a lot of plants that we would call weeds today, but they're all mostly edible, or useful in some way. And there's lots of fish going up and down the streams, even a lot of saltwater fish that came in from the oceans to spawn. And a lot of the fish were really big. They could survive all types of the water environments. Now, because of the damming of a lot of waterways, watersheds, or whatever, the natural migration paths aren't available. The fish that are that can pretty much survive almost anywhere are usually the warm water fish, but the cold water fish, and they can't move back up to cold water streams, so they die off. So all of that stuff, all those types of fish are just in the hatcheries and put stocked, and it just feels like the food was plentiful. Just like if you even listen or read just this, the Lewis and Clark, the expedition going towards the west, and just a whole bunch of accounts were just saying water. I mean, there's just fish just jumping out of the water. There's just so many of them. And now you just go to any pond and it's like almost dead. You'll catch it here and maybe a largemouth here and there, maybe a couple bluegills and whatnot. And I'm going to fish talk, which I should do these on. I should talk about this stuff like on Monday or Tuesdays nights. I think we're gonna do just a fish talk on Mondays and Tuesdays, because I think fishing is just a big part of life.
Sustenance.
Yeah. You're kind of frozen out, Aaron.
Sorry. Yeah, my power cord. Oh.
Still freezing out.
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, my power cord gets all weird and starts giving me this. Oh, you only have 26% left, and it puts a screen on above yours. Then I can't cancel it without closing it and then coming back to your screen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fuck Samsung.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, for me, I was just like vegetarian. It's most of my life. And then my daughter was born. Is like, okay, I want her to try meat, see if she wants meat, but I want to make sure we hunt and fish for it ourselves. I don't want her to eat meat that's out there, mass produced. And then when I was, learning fishing all over again, is just the realization, because a lot of it is I want to catch particular types of fish so I can try them out and see if my wife likes it, see if my daughter likes it, and it has a lot to do with the history of why certain fish aren't there anymore. What if they're a hatchery, where can you find wild versions of the fish? And then most of the wild ones you can't really take home and eat, or there's regulations on how to catch them, how much you can catch, and I mean, it gets down to a lot of details where a lot of normal people wouldn't even realize. And the dams that, I mean, we all grew up and we all think dams are great. The was the Grand Hoover Dam is another thing, the hydroelectric dams, and everyone says, hey, it's great because it creates power, it creates energy, and we create reservoirs and all this other stuff. But then what you don't realize is the fish that used to naturally spawn and just be everywhere, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, cuts them off.
Yeah.
Gee whiz. What's the river down there near the Columbus? It's not the Niobrara. The Niobrara is up north, right? From where you're at.
I think so. Sounds familiar. There's
But
the Missouri River that's east of here.
Don't say I know the Missouri, but I know that the river that cuts across through Nebraska, through Columbus, Omaha, right through there.
The Loop River?
No, it comes from the Rocky Mountains. What's the long one?
Oh, I know that one.
Don't tell me, but go ahead and tell me.
Shoot. I know what you're talking about. Now I can't remember it.
It's all the way through.
Yeah, because it's great trout fishing.
Yeah.
You get all the wild native trout from there, and it
empties into the Missouri, which then empties into the Mississippi.
Yeah. Because
along that way, there's been massive dams built, and and they try to put fish spawn ramps or whatever they call it, where the fish can jump back up the dam. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah, I wanted to go fishing on that river up in not in Colorado. I think it was in Wyoming, but we ended up going somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's why can't I figure it out?
I can check, but I don't want to leave you. Hold on. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Why can't I remember it? I'm just looking through the maps now. it's I mean, it's a long river. It's not really big, but it's just one of those. It just keeps
Yeah,
going.
and it follows Highway 80, right?
Well, Nebraska, it's weird. It just does a lot of back and forth. I don't know if it's not like a big river thing.
I know. We'll find it.
Gosh, I wish I could remember. I'm serious. We went on a trip last summer, or is it this summer? I can't remember. I think it was last summer. Yeah, last summer, and I was looking through it and I was excited. I was like, yeah, let's go through there. I want to fish over at that river.
Damn it! There's not a Google Rivers. I can't.
I know, right?
I can find
I'm
Google.
looking at it. I'm looking at a river that's following 80, and it won't tell me what the river is.
Yeah.
I mean, there is Niobrara River that's pretty big. It like cuts, it like borders on here. Well, it
Travis,
doesn't go through
you're on the right
Columbus.
track. It's that river that follows Highway 80 all the way up to Colorado.
Yeah.
But it won't tell me the fucking name of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want people to find it.
I wonder if you looked on Google Earth, because I'm just on Google Maps or my iPhone map.
I have to admit, I went to satellite Google Earth and it showed me some pictures. But...
North Platte River.
Platte. It was the Platte River. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
River.
That's the really famous cold water river that comes from the mountains in Colorado, and you can catch some really nice trout because they love that cold water.
Yeah. But like you were just talking about, how many dams have been built along that river? I don't know. Travis, stop it. Don't try to find out how many. I was just asking a rhetorical question, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Because it definitely influences the, I'll bet you that Travis and I weren't the first white people here or the first people here ever, right? I'm guessing there were people here before us who fished that river and fed their families from that river before we moved in and built dams,
Yeah.
And I guarantee there was a variety. There wasn't, like you were saying, there was a variety.
Yeah. And it's funny also how there's a lot of misconceptions about certain types of fish. Like here, there's called the freshwater drum is considered trash fish by a lot of people, but it's actually pretty good. We actually tried it here, and it was good tasting fish. And it's just prevalent. Instead everyone goes for all the trout that's stocked and all the walleye that gets stocked. But I mean, you've got native fish here that you can eat. That's pretty good tasting. I think it's because it's kind of one of those ground feeder fish. They not quite total bottom feeder, but they do like to hang around the bottom. And that those types of fish, I notice there's a lot of native fish around different areas that people don't realize. Like for scup is one of them back in Boston, over in Massachusetts. And in the Northwest, they consider you can fish and return it for like a bounty. People just have a living off of just fishing these and turning them into bounties. They consider it as a trash fish, except it's also a native fish in the Northwest. They just compete with the salmon and the trout. So they want to make the industry, whatever industry it is, the fishing industry or the state, they want to make money off of recreational fishing. So they just want to limit the population of of these native fish because they want people coming from all over the country to fish for trout, which is, because that's just a big popular attraction
Yeah,
for a lot of
become
recreational fishers.
become a tourist recreation attraction
Yeah.
versus a sustainable, event. What do you like eating more? I was born and raised in Nebraska, Norfolk, Nebraska, about maybe 100 miles north of you. But when I was 10 years old,
East, southeast, but
moved-
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
Norfolk. Oh, shoot. Wait,
no,
Norfolk?
yeah, straight up, pretty much straight up from Columbus, almost.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and yeah, but when I was 10 years old, my folks moved me and my two sisters, one older, one younger, to Seattle.
Yeah.
So we lived in Kent, Federal, Maple Valley, all that, Des Moines, I know all these names, but I wasn't a fish eater, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, but you said that you had moved there first, and you ended up in Nebraska. So when you're talking about fishing, um, do you prefer sea fish, or we would call freshwater fish, or what do you call them? Or
I mean,
how do you?
saltwater fish.
Yeah, saltwater.
I mean, all fish taste different, which is kind of weird. Like we really prefer trout in my family. I would say salmon is in the same salmonid family. I've tried when I was young. We ate a lot of um, flounder,
Mhm.
and I liked flounder, and halibut. Another thing. My father used to always make like halibut steaks almost every day. I think that's how it grew so fast. And then I became a vegetarian. But if I had probably fished for myself back then, I would probably kept eating it. But yeah, I just try anything I catch. So the pike minnow is what competes with the trout, and so
Oh,
people fish for pike minnow and do this bounty program. Some have made 100, like I think the most anyone has ever made was something like $108,000 just off of doing those bounty fishing.
yeah.
They're fun to catch, which I'm like I've caught them a couple of times before. They fight more than the trout do, and they're kind of I mean they're just kind of exactly the same as trout as far as how you would fish for them. I think they're a little bit more aggressive, but then again, that's actually good for recreational fishing. But they just don't look very good, So people consider them trash fish, and I wanted to eat one of them, but where I caught a lot of them, they were it's kind of like a bed and breakfast. We don't want to eat any of the fish out from there because then people who stay there won't catch any of the fish. But it was fun catching them on a lure, and when we went to trout fish, I've gotten to the point where stocked trout within ponds, it's not even a challenge anymore. Like I would just my brother is like a really really good trout fisherman, especially on a fly fishing rod.
Yeah.
But like if we go fishing, it's like I'll just catch him. And if he tries catching him on a stock pond, he won't catch very much, and I'll just catch my limit in like half an hour. And basically what I do is I just get everything set up, know where to cast it, and just let the children just reel them in and they have a blast. But like if we're just surviving on what we caught and what we grew, it's like half an hour of my day, I already have food for the family. It's like, what do I do for the rest of the time,
Yeah.
And then here, if we're talking about the money system, yeah, I could probably buy enough for our family to eat in a day. But it'd be like if we wanted to like have good organic food and stuff like that and prepare it, buy it from the grocery store, it'd be maybe like $60 to be real for 3 square meals a day. That's healthy and
And
nutritious.
and Okay.
But then when you realize it's the money of that if you account for the lease or the rent, the taxes, the electric bill, the water bill, the gas bill, the um, uh, whatever cable bill or whatever, just all these things add up, and basically what you're working for it, for the rest of the time for work is to pay for all of that.
It's for survival.
Yeah,
You pay just to live,
yeah.
basically.
Like if like the
Oh,
way I was making the money, it was maybe $95 an hour, close to, if you add in all the bonuses and whatever. But
yeah.
like if I just worked 1 hour a day and all I had to worry about was feeding my family, I could have done it in just 1 hour of work.
Yeah.
But it's the other other stuff that you work the extra 7 hours for per day.
It's the material world that gets us,
Yeah.
you know. Because in order maybe to make 95 an hour, you have to have a car, right? And you can't have a piece of shit car, so you got to have a decent car.
Mm-hmm.
And and then you have to have insurance, license, tag, registration,
Yeah.
like all this other added bullshit
And then
just to survive to get back home so you
mhm.
can support your family.
And you're gonna need to pay for daycare because if your kid's in public school, they're gonna get out early. They're gonna get out around 3, sometimes 2 in the afternoon. So do you do after school program? That sometimes you'd have to pay for that. Otherwise, you're paying for their daycare, and you'd have to have someone pick them up, drop them off, type of thing. Or
Daycare is super cheap though, right, Ivan?
here it is in Somerville. It was.
No, don't lie to me. It's expensive as hell. Daycare, I mean,
It
depending
depends.
on your income level, but
Yes.
I'll bet it's $2,000 a month.
No,
Let's say.
in Columbus, it's for we only have one kid, my son who's 2, and it's about 100 a week, I would say, so about 400. But if we had daycare like that back in Somerville, Massachusetts,
Yeah,
my wife would drop him off near her work, or drop him off at her work and pick him up afterwards, and it would be like 1,200 a week or something. But then
yeah.
if
It's
we
almost like her salary, possibly.
yeah, and then
It would be better if she just stayed home.
yeah, and then if we had it in the city where we actually lived in in Somerville, Massachusetts, it'd be around 2,000 a month, if not
Mm-hmm.
yeah, around there. So we saved $800 I mean, sorry, $1,200 a month at that near her work. But otherwise, we're saving $800 a month just by going to a different city for daycare. But yeah, $2,000 a month for daycare for one kid. That's
That's more than a house payment, almost like a
yeah, it
mortgage.
is.
Gee whiz.
So yeah, and you're basically paying for someone else to take care of your kid.
To teach and educate your kid on some shit that you don't even want them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you just think about it in the scheme of things, is like if you fasten yourself off of the system, it's you spend more time with your family, you spend more time with your friends. You kind of don't know what else to do. You have so much spare time because you focus on the needs first, and you realize the needs are met within like an hour, or 2. And sometimes it's just if you're growing stuff, it's just cycling through the entire process of you're just growing. You have whatever system that you have set up. I think the easiest thing to do all year round is like a hydroponics type of system. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love to
Yeah.
set that up, but I think we're not ready for that yet.
A
But
lot of the land though is already set up though to have fruits, vegetables, and um, let's say chickens. Land animals, lamb itself, chickens. Meat if you desire that, or fish. Right, the
mhm,
land is already set up for that. We're already ready for that. You know.
mhm,
So it's not like it would be a hard transition, except for the fact that we are all conditioned to be city folks.
Yeah. And it's funny. It feels like a lot of people here really want to move to the city, and not many people in the city want to move out to the rural areas. I did like a total reverse of what most people do. But yeah, I have a feeling that's gonna happen with my kids, because my kids are gonna remember living out here in the rural and just want to live out in the city. But me, I've always lived out in the city. I always wanted to live out in the country. So it just happens to be like that. Who knows? Maybe she likes the experience here. She realized the city isn't what she thought it was like. Same thing with my son. Who knows? But I just give them the option to choose what they want. I just want to teach them as much as I can and let them find out their own way.
That's cool. Hey, different topic, I guess. Were you born here in U.S.
Yeah.
or in?
Houston, Texas.
Okay. And your parents are from Seoul or?
Yeah, Busan, South Korea.
Busan.
Yeah.
I had a good friend from there. I told you, I think last time, from Busan.
Yeah. And I visited.
Just cool people. You Koreans are fucking awesome people. Actually.
Thanks.
I love kimchi.
And kimchi's awesome.
Yeah,
but not too spicy.
Not too spicy. I really like it spicy. I mean, I remember visiting when I was young in South Korea, and so I had a grandmother. What they would do for water, they didn't have running water. They would hike up a mountain where there are these like artesian well type things where all the water would run out, and they would have hoses attached to them so people could fill up water bottles and stuff like that. And I was like, you know how kids are energetic, they can run for hours, you know. I couldn't carry anything. I was just walking with them. And my grandmother, who was probably 60, would go up there with just like a stick and like these big gallon buckets. She'd walk up there with everyone else carrying these empty jugs, and then on the way down she'd be with them carrying just probably like 50-60 pounds of water on her back, and we're walking like 2 miles, you know. Amazing. Up and down. Can you imagine anyone in America doing that to get
That'd be awesome.
Fresh water?
I would love doing that. I mean, but see, that's the point. That's what we think about in terms of leisure and sloth and activity. If you had to build your own meal for your family, that's a process of a day. You know, besides the fact that you might bake your bread a couple of days ahead of time, so that you don't have to do that every single day. But still, I mean, and I would just much rather create and build and farm and weed and irrigate than what I'm doing.
Yeah. And
Travis, would you walk up a mountain about a mile when you're 60 years old?
Yeah, because I could.
And yes, and come back down with water. Of course, I would do it too. Absolutely, just like Bum's grandma. You know, for freedom.
Yeah.
When I say freedom, I mean maybe she wasn't totally free, but we're talking about freedom of land, freedom of life, like that. When you supply your own water, nobody can come to your door and charge you, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's just weird things to think about. Because we get everything, so much for granted. And it was a family affair, right? I mean, one person carrying that isn't going to be enough to really last a long time. So almost the entire family goes and gets it, and brings it back. No, but
she did that for 60 years. Think about that.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. Every day for 60 years.
Well, they would go as a family, bring enough back so they don't have to. They could just do it once a week, type of thing. You know.
I know. It wasn't a slavish type issue, but it
Yeah.
was a need type issue,
Yeah.
right? If it was needed, we go get it. That's it.
Hmm.
You know, there was no question. We need it, and that's the kind of mentality I think that, um, well, other folks need. But I'm not going to judge other folks. I have that type of mentality. I'm trying to build my own place here. You're trying to build your life there. Travis is doing his own thing.
I'm trying to hijack my grandparents' house.
Exactly.
Where do you
So
live,
then,
Travis? Sorry.
I'm in Maryland, but
Oh.
my grandparent, my grandmother, my grandfather passed away last year, but my mom has been caring for her mom since her dad passed away, and it's just driving her stir crazy because she's a city woman and she hates being up and sequestered back in the canyon in California. And I was talking to her, I'm like, Mom, I'll come out and take care of Grandma. I would absolutely love to, do
yes.
the last two times I went in April and January, I plowed the field for them.
Mm.
And yeah, but my mom was like, she's like, I do not want to be here. We're going to sell the land. I'm like, please
No,
do
no,
not
no,
sell the
no,
land.
no,
That
no,
is
no.
that is the last thing you want to do. But so anyway, I'm going to California the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to try to get my foot in the door somehow.
Put your foot in there, Travis. Yeah,
Yeah,
get on that.
I'm gonna try. I know.
Land is survival, first of all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can create resources with land. You can't really create resources with money. You can invest, but that's you don't know you're going to actually gain out of investing. But
There's
when
no
you have
return.
yeah,
There's no guaranteed return on investment. There's always guaranteed return on land.
yes,
Oh,
always.
100%. Because you can survive on it.
Yeah.
You know,
Things
if
grow
money, yeah,
anywhere, right?
yeah. If money disappeared and Travis has his land, I have my land, you have yours, we could survive.
Hmm.
Right?
We'd probably have a surplus. You know,
Exactly.
once we get things working, we'd have a surplus of stuff, and what do we do with it? You know,
We'd
this
start
is,
trading with each other.
yeah, we trade it, and we go, okay, I'm just tired of eating bread every day, even though I love bread. How about
Travis,
I
give
trade
me
some?
some. Travis.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll bake the bread. You make the kimchi.
yeah,
Mm,
because I wanted to grow my own rice. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing, because I think
yeah,
rice is very important as far as sustenance goes. And
super awesome.
yeah, and me and my wife are really
Something.
wanting to raise our own chickens for eggs, because eggs easy protein, easy to grow, and my wife next summer is gonna have her own bee colonies, so
Oh, nice.
have our own honey. We don't have to worry about like so much sugar. Like I would love to have maple trees, um, and just get maple syrup, but you just need a lot of maple trees. But just tapping into the trees is an easy process.
Natural sugar.
Yeah,
Natural sugar. Right?
yeah.
That's awesome.
But you know, I think me and my wife right now, we're kind of in the process. If I can figure out how to get enough money to buy land, we're gonna just try that. You know, live off grid and just make things how we want it, just all natural, all ourselves, and
We can't live off grid though until we have our own water, our own power.
yeah,
Right. That's where the city and the county, the state has moved in and basically forced us to be residents of their jurisdiction to get these services.
yeah,
And God damn it, it's convenient. It is. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing,
yeah.
but
And it's good to have a community of people, like-minded people, and I think that's important, especially if you have
yeah.
kids.
But if you want a city service, you have to be a resident, which means then you also have to have ID. You have to also have all the stuff.
Yeah.
So they've kind of captured a certain part of. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. They've also captured a part of our existence called land. You know, where the city and the state county have captured water and power. You know,
Hmm.
and supplied it to all of us, which is great. So and for not that much money, but that means we have to go out and work. You know, we have to pay them their tokens for
Yeah.
it. Um,
But we also
so
let the city manage the water, so they put all the stuff in to meet their specifications of, and then we have to, if
yeah,
you can, just filter all that out in some form or another. I mean, because
I
one of the
know.
big conspiracy theories is the fluoride in the water. So the for in Columbus, Nebraska, the water, it's hard water. So I have a salt. Um, I forgot what you call it, but it just uses
Purification or
no. It's so it gets,
filtration.
yeah, salt filtration. I think that's right, something like that. But basically, it just gets a lot of the hard chemicals and um hard. I don't know what you call it. Hard metals. Sorry,
Um,
hard metals. Kind
yeah,
of. So it's a water softener. That's all it is. It just uses salt to convert a lot of the stuff. But then, but that's just for our bath water, and then for our drinking water, I've got a 5-stage um, reverse osmosis filter. But and then we keep them in the fridge in a copper in a copper container. But I would love to be able to just drink out of an like a artesian well. Like, have you ever fished up in Royal, Nebraska on the gosh, I don't know what you call it.
Niobrara,
No,
maybe.
not the Niobrara. Um, I keep forgetting the name of the creek.
Well, I'll tell you this. I haven't.
Oh,
You know,
the East Verdigris Creek, or the
no,
Verdigris Creek. So it's a spring-fed creek, and if you go camping up there, they have an artesian well where you can just get the water out of the pipe that's coming out of the ground, and it's the cold. It's always 52 degrees year round, and it's just the the water is just very clean and has all these natural natural elements. The like
it's just pure.
yeah, it's just pure.
Pure. Yeah. Now, why can't we dig down, maybe even 8 feet, maybe 10 feet, right?
Yeah, tap
And
into the
have a hole.
aquifer.
Wherever the aquifer is, you know, there's allegedly the Earth is a molten iron core, but you dig down 8 feet and the hole fills with water.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Just fills with water. And drinkable water, you know,
Hmm.
maybe filter it before you drink it,
Yeah.
but it's natural.
Yeah. I have someone who works on electric stuff. He lives out of just south of Columbus, just kind of out of like town stuff, and he has his own well,
Yep.
and it's nice and clean. And I mean, we could all do that, but then again, city ordinances don't allow you to dig your own well.
There are restrictions if you live on a residence,
Hmm.
right? You can and can't do this or that.
Yeah.
And one of those things is you can't drill a well, you know,
Hmm.
because you live in a residence with city water. You have to drink our water, right?
Yeah.
And
And
it's just Yes, but if you move to the country, let's say a country, and if you pay for your own land, remember it has to be paid for because if you have a mortgage on your land, let's say a bank owns the land you buy,
Hmm.
your free and land, um, the bank is going to be restricted on what it can and can't do on that land. So the tenant, you, can and can't do certain things based upon the mortgage agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you buy out a piece of land, just buy it. Then you're way more free. You're way more free to create your own power, dig a well. You know, the county won't show up and ask you what you're doing because there's no liens on it. You know, there's no lien on your land. The bank doesn't own it. You own it. County doesn't own it. State doesn't own it. They're just watching you to make sure you're not building a space rocket ship or something you can't do.
Oh, I'm gonna mute you, Travis. Alright, I'm gonna mute him. So I think he's making a smoothie or something.
Sounds like it. But yeah, if you lease the land, you can't drill a well. You can get runoff water, of course.
Mhm.
Anything subsurface or above surface, you can collect.
Have
Yep.
you have you heard that certain towns are restricting even that?
Yes, absolutely. In towns, yeah.
Yeah.
In the city, yes.
Yeah.
In the city, of course. But out in the country, even a mile out of town, where it's outside the city limit,
Yeah.
where then it becomes the alleged state of Nebraska property or the certain county. They can't regulate you too much because there are natural runoffs, right?
Mhm.
There are natural drainage areas. And so if you collect that, no big deal. You know, you're not stopping the flow of the Platte River. You know, you're not building a dam. You're just collecting, 55-gallon drums of water, you know, which is what we need to begin a life out in the country. You know,
Yeah.
it's water. You definitely need water.
Yeah. Water's the main important part. And, once you have water, you can just make things grow.
Dude, it's, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. And then if you make things grow, you can get animals to come. Right?
there
You
you
don't even
go.
have to actively hunt. You can just trap.
Nature.
Yeah.
There you go.
Uh,
Nature.
so we had like a cabin over in Wyoming that we went to last year with my mom and my brother, um, and they would just put corn out in their backyard, and you would just have like 5, 6 wild turkeys and like 10 deer.
Mm-hmm.
They just all come in. And it's like you can just get one of them. That, a turkey would probably last you a week or two, and then you've got a deer that will probably last you a month.
At least,
Yeah. Uh,
you know,
and all
and
the other
that's
stuff you could
two
grow.
shots in one day. That's 3 months of survival with two shots in one day, right?
Yeah.
Turkey, deer. There you go.
Yeah. Uh, and then, that's not to even discount fishing. Like, me and my brother went fishing on a river nearby, just a stream, not a big river. And he caught, like, I caught one brown trout, but I've caught a couple of other trouts that I released, but he caught 3 big brown trout. He let one go. We kept 2. And, yeah, I mean, just the you just like we didn't have to
You
go
catch.
far to catch fish. The deer and
That's
the
right.
turkey just come right to our back to the backyard. It's like,
They come to your land.
yeah, it's like you've got water because there's a stream, and then you've got you can grow things because, well, if you got water and you got land, you got sun. That's all you need. It,
Good.
it's like That's I call that a perfect life, and I don't know why there aren't so many more people that live out in the middle of nowhere, no Wyoming.
That's how the United States apparently was formed. Remember?
Hmm.
Go west, young man. Right? Go west. 40 acres and a mule. Occupy this land out west. The East Coast, I guess, was
You there? Looks like you got you're. Excuse me. You're kind of frozen again. I think you've got that pop up maybe. You guys there? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm headed to bed.
Okay. Yeah, I think we might end it soon. I think Aaron got offline. His connection's not there. But I mean, it's still it's a good conversation. I think yeah, he left. Anyways, tomorrow night we're gonna have just the politics type of conversation. I think it needs to be there. And then I think on Monday or Tuesday nights, I think I may dedicate that to just kind of fishing talk. I'll talk with Bob, and then the other stuff I always just kind of put out. But like this stuff, if you want to dedicate it, talk about just off grids maybe, or off uncontrolled. I don't know. Whatever, however way we want to talk about it.
Semi off grid.
Yeah, semi off grid to off grid living. I think that's good. It's important. I think more people are actually interested in that, which is I think great. Like, do you watch a lot of like survival and off grid type of YouTube channels?
I just started getting into watching a lot of guys that are doing permaculture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't watch it regularly.
Yeah.
But I've seen a few hours of it, and that stuff. There was somebody down in South America. There was this guy that's got like 6 community garden plots that he maintains, and he built his little tiny micro home in this woman's backyard, and he just basically lives off the land that he farms and gardens, and the community takes advantage of it, or not takes of it, but can participate and benefit from it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. So much we could talk about that, but I'm just wanting to point out that those YouTube channels are starting to get really big.
Yeah.
Because people are getting interested in that again. And I think
the other one too is RV living and conversion van stuff. Like I saw this one, like this 18-year-old girl bought a van, converted it herself, and now she's driving around the country, and she'll wait on tables to make money to go to the next town and whatever.
Yeah. And I saw this video where so this couple bought I think it was in Europe somewhere. They bought a used school bus, fixed it all up so it's kind of like a RV type of thing, and they just travel. But and also to make money, what they do is they get people to drive to a spot for like a tourist destination, and then they just drive back, and that's kind of how they make money. Is they get a tour a lot of the countryside where most tourists don't get to experience it because they don't have anyone, like the hotels aren't going to drive them up there.
Yeah,
and they won't know how to get there, so they advertise it. It's kind of great. These ideas are always great. Anyways, it's we lived through.
A girl can dream.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming on. Tomorrow night, everyone will be on. So far, I've done a good job of doing live streams at 10 p.m. Central Time. So let's see how long I can keep that going. All right. See ya tomorrow night, fellas. Bye.